Alright, YouTube. So I had an Avatar breakdown video recorded, but I just didn't finish editing it, bro. It's such a hassle to edit, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, I wanted to post that for y'all on this channel, but bro, y'all don't even understand, bro. The editing hassle of that video. Like, I edit all my videos, so I usually edit my videos. Like, I do good with that, but that video, for some reason, it's just so much more that goes into that video, bro. Let me know in the comments if y'all want me to drop that. But let's get into the video, man. Y'all drop like, subscribe, bro. I finished Avatar 2, so let me know what y'all think about it. I liked it. I will say, though, I didn't really like the last two episodes. Like, the very last episode, I didn't really like that one as much. And then this episode 7, which is the second to last episode, that was okay. But all the other ones, 1 through 6, I like those episodes.
Horrible. You said it.
But the effects were decent.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the live-action Avatar series on Netflix. Now, we all agree, the original series is a masterpiece.
Today, destiny is our friend.
I'm like, I know.
I know it.
But we've been burned with live-action adaptations
But that
before.
shit is trash.
So,
I ain't gonna lie, bro. This one was terrible. In the theaters when I was younger, nigga, I thought this one was decent. I'm like, it's not good. Like, you know, when I was younger, I wasn't really on the media like that. So I didn't really see the blogs and the YouTube videos and you feel me, Instagram posts about stuff like this. So, like, I didn't really think it was bad. But looking back on it, that shit was ass. Like, I ain't rewatch it, but I saw some more stuff on, like, the internet and YouTube. Nigga, the CGI was trash. The bending was terrible, like, bro. And this Sokka cast, bro, no shade to the actor, but, bro, that wasn't good cast for her. I don't know how she played in the movie, but she looks like she was bro, it's not even the right necklace, nigga. But as far as her, she could have played a good Katara. The Katara they got in the new one, I don't really like that Katara like that. Like, the actor played that part well, but as far as the Katara look, she don't really look like she would be a Katara. She looks more like she could be a Katara, but the movie was trash, so she might not play a good role in it anyway.
Are you the Avatar, Ong?
So where does this series
Nigga said, Ong, are you the Avatar, Ong? Like, bro, what? Nigga's Aang.
fall? Was it great, or really bad, or somewhere in between? Now, I'm going to be joined by the Screen Crush crew to get their thoughts, but first, I want to give you my take. And I want to start with what was pretty great about this season. First of all, and I cannot stress this enough, I do not expect an adaptation to loyally reproduce every single frame of the original series. You're taking like 22-minute episodes and putting them into a 50-minute episode series. So, of course, they have to pick and choose what to adapt and what to combine and change and throw away. In fact, I prefer that. I like when an adaptation changes the source material enough to keep it fresh while, you know, keeping what works. Like, I'm not so sure that the Avatar live action kept what worked, but I want to stay positive up top before we get into the really negative stuff later on. And believe me, we have notes.
Yeah, like everything was wrong and out of order and every sentence was just exposition. And why is this show just so depressing? Like, person, who is this show for?
Oh, and by the way, I thought you guys would like this new Bison as Jaws parody shirt for sale now at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design all the merch ourselves. We also have this I lost my honor at the Fire Nation and all I got was this lousy Scar shirt, and the Uncle Sam I Want You for the Fire Nation Army parody shirt. Now, that first episode starts off pretty great. Like, remember, this is not how the animated series starts. The live-action show chooses to give us Aang's backstory up front to give us a visual spectacle that shows the brutality of the Fire Nation and establishes the stakes of this series. And it's heartbreaking. Every part of this prologue is just gut-wrenching. I mean, we watched people get burned.
Yeah, and then the Fire Lord went and Anakin to a bunch of kids.
Oh god, Anakin did the Anakin. I literally said that.
Right, and it's also
I said that in my breakdown, bro. I just didn't upload it, but I literally said that. I'm like, bro, that was it. Like, bro, he literally killed the kids. At least they didn't show it like they did Anakin. Like, they didn't show Anakin kill the kids on the movie either, but like, they didn't show him even approaching the kids. But obviously, he killed the kids. Like, you feel me? All the airbenders died, so.
important to show the glory of the Air Kingdom so early in the story, so we have an idea of what Aang has lost. I mean, in the show, we typically just see the ruins of the Air Temple, and it overshadows that Aang is a child of genocide. And the prologue also established every kind of bending and gave us an idea of what each bender would be capable of in the future. This did a great job of summarizing the world with action and setting the stakes for the entire series.
Hey, are you guys hiring right now?
Oh, no, not really. It's kind of quiet, you know, it's after the
We've got
holidays. There's
real
not really a
filled
lot
up,
going
you know,
on and
not-
stuff.
not-
Besides, I already already thought you had a job like dressing up as a dinosaur.
Oh, I have 7 jobs, and I still can't pay my bills and afford to keep my kids all stitched up.
Well then, dude, you have to start a real career, like be a back-end web developer.
Oh, I don't know anything about computers except for my RPG games. I love my games.
Actually, that's perfect because you can learn how to do back-end web development with Boot.dev. They're the sponsor of this video. You see, Boot...
Okay, nigga. Get back to the video.
off your first month or your first year depending on the subscription that you choose. Now, back to what I was saying. The way they represented bending on screen looked great, especially air bending, which is the least cinematic of the 4 forms. So overall, I loved the first episode. Loved how they faithfully adapted the look and design of the animated show, but while still found a way to keep it grounded in live action. But you start to notice a few changes in that first episode. Sokka is less of a goofball. They gave him more pathos in the series, and overall, like, this is where I started to notice that the show lacked a lot of the character depth of the original. Like in episode 2, Kyoshi Island. Originally, this was Sokka's personal journey to overcome. He was very sexist.
There's no way a bunch of girls took us down.
And over the series, Sokka gradually matures and becomes a leader. But here, he seems to already be like a mature young man. Instead, in the last couple episodes, they focused on him wanting his dad's approval, but that didn't land for me. I mean, we're intercutting between him and Zuko's story, and Zuko's dad literally burned the flesh from his face because he was so disappointed in him. It was hard to feel bad for Sokka by comparison. However, the casting was absolutely perfect. Ian Owsley looked exactly like Sokka from the series, and he did a great job in the role. Everybody does across the board, especially Paul Sung-hyun Lee as Uncle Iroh. Lee is a veteran of big franchises. He's popped up in the Disney Plus Star Wars shows.
I remember, bro, I didn't even make that connection. I literally seen this. I watched The Mandalorian. Bro, I did not connect in my mind, bro. I do not remember him. Like, I remember him now, but I'm saying, like, I didn't make that connection when I was watching Avatar. Yo, shout out to him, bro.
For years, and he perfectly embodies like the sadness and the cheerfulness of Iroh. In fact, my favorite moment from this season was that wagon train episode where he remembers his son and we hear this music. Now that is the melody of the Soldier Boy lullaby he sings at his son's shrine in Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Leaves from the vine, falling so slow.
Absolutely wrecks me every single time. So there are places where this show has this absolute loyalty to the world building of Avatar, and I appreciated almost all of the change every single time. So there are places where this show has this absolute
falling.
I did look like his tears stop at his beard, like it's going under his beard or something. That's funny though. They could have like made it drip down.
So slow.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm not an animator.
So there are places where this show has this absolute loyalty to the world building of Avatar, and I appreciated almost all of the changes. Introducing Zuko's sister Azula earlier in the series sets her up as an overarching antagonist. Danny Pudi was great as the Mechanist, and here's where we get a pretty
exactly like him
in the series. They combined the
that.
Omashu story with the Northern Air Temple story, which involved the Mechanist.
See, Chad, I watched a couple episodes of Avatar. Like, I watched the full Avatar animated series. But I'm saying, like, recently I went and watched a couple episodes of that animated series. Just, like, kind of refresh my memory. But I didn't watch all of it. Or like, even the first season because, I don't know, I just didn't. But, so I don't remember everything. But now he's, like, putting screenshots and stuff. It's kind of coming back to me.
And I'm fine with changes like this. The creators want to tell as much of this story as they can, but the budget is tighter in a live action setting. Like, okay, here's something I'm sure is going to be controversial that I'll talk about with the team later on. When they took the Cave of the Two Lovers story and they placed Sokka and Katara in the tunnels instead of Katara and Aang. Now, we just did a video about how the romantic resolution between Katara and Aang was a little creepy and, in our opinion, not the right ship for the series. And it's kind of telling because in this show, because of the age difference, they don't even mention Aang's crush on Katara. Now, I did like how they used that tunnel change to explore Katara and Sokka's sibling relationship.
And you don't get to just ignore me.
I can't if you're being an idiot.
Dad put me in charge.
You're not Dad.
But it did come at the expense of Aang's feelings and character development. And I think that's where the live-action adaptation actually fails, in its portrayal of Aang. Now, I think the actor, Gordon Cormier, is great in this role, but to save money, the show feels like it has to speed run through the events of Season 1. The problem with that is they're speed running through all of the character growth and all of the fun times, all the little moments that made this group become a family. We don't get to see Aang just goof off and be a kid. I mean, we're told that he has friends, but we don't ever get to see these bonds develop. develop. The show is like all meat, no fixins, no dessert. Instead of showing us Aang's childlike nature, we just get this dark, brooding pathos. And I mean, that's there, but it's just not what the show is. So Bevan, the thing is, the show does seem to make changes and skip stories that are going to alienate OG fans like you, while it also leaves out the charm and the characters which would attract new viewers. So who was this show for?
See, I have an answer to this. The show is for consumers that hold on to this narrative that live action is a higher form of medium than animation and therefore acceptable for adult consumption. And we know this to be true because the showrunner Albert Kim is quoted actually, I think in the Entertainment Weekly article, of saying that he wants to court Game of Thrones audiences, which is ironic because they gave us a script that spoon feeds a plot point and character motivations like the audience are children, which is something the animation doesn't do. What do you guys think?
Randolph, why don't you go first? Sorry. What were your thoughts on the show overall? Oh, by the way, everybody, we are joined here by Bevan, frequent contributor, Shri, who does our merch and our social media, and Randolph Nabrato, our lead editor. All massive Avatar fans. I love Avatar, casual fan. These guys have seen it through several times. Randolph, go ahead.
As an OG Avatar fan, it's really hard not to compare the original show with this one. So I would keep finding myself comparing the original show with the live action and finding myself not having a great time because I was like, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? Oh, they're doing this differently. But
you can't get hung up on that though when you watch a show. You can't constantly.
Yeah, I don't think they should compare the show to the live action one because they are changing stuff. It's the same story, but they're changing stuff. Like, I know it's hard not to compare it, but I don't really think they should, bro. It's like, it's not the same thing for real. Like, it's the same story, it's Avatar, yes, but they're telling it differently. They switching things up. I feel like you should try to go into this as like, okay, this is a new show. Just go into it with a whole different mindset. Like, just leave the animated one in the past and not try to think about the animated one. It's hard because I even compared it a little bit too, I'm not gonna lie, but you gotta try to just go into it with like a different mindset. Like, okay, this is just that live action version. Just try to think of it like a movie or a new version or something like that. You feel what I'm saying? But yeah, it's hard to not compare though.
Constantly think, well, I could be watching the animation right now, So apart from that, like, oh, I'm comparing it. How did it land for you?
Like Bevan said, the dialogue just made it seem like the show didn't trust the audience. Like, everything that we needed to know was told to us every 5 minutes.
He may seem like just a boy, but he's much more. He is the last Airbender.
Was talking way more
and
than
personally, I hate when a movie or show does that because it removes all of the subtext that we need to, or all the subtext that we, as the audience, it can look for and find the motivations for the characters for. And I think it was just, as a show by itself without the support of the original fans watching it, I don't think it holds up.
Yeah, and one thing I did talk about earlier is how the whole show felt like a speed run where we got like, certain points were condensed and combined, which I think we can all agree is okay in an adaptation. For an adaptation to do that, maybe you didn't like it here, but it's okay. But we did skip over, it was like getting a microwave meal as opposed to like a nice home cooked dinner. Like it was fast versus substance. Shri, what do you think? How many times have you seen Avatar all the way through?
I am not overstating this when I say at least 40 times.
Okay, so you're an OG fan. What did you think of this show, and specifically about the points that Randolph is addressing?
The dialogue just felt too clunky. I think I was saying this earlier to
She got a Toph shirt. That's another thing they didn't do. They didn't put Toph in season 1 because she might not be in season 1 of Avatar animated show. Maybe that's why, or maybe she is, and they just in this 8 episodes wasn't the full season 1. But what I do know is they didn't put Toph in season 1 of live action, and that was trash. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I was expecting to see Toph, gang. But I didn't really watch the trailer, so I don't think Toph was in the trailer because she wasn't, in the season 1. But I was like, dang, they ain't gonna put Toph in here, bro. She part of Team Avatar too. You know what I'm saying?
a couple of friends where it felt like a 7th grade persuasive essay that I was assigned to write based off the show, where there was this one scene where it was like, oh, that's not me. I like to eat banana cakes and goof off with my friends.
I like to play airball.
Here's one thing you need to do before...
Eat banana cakes and goof off with my friends.
And I'm like, watching this and saying, like, I I think I wrote that in like a why is this character very joyful and childish? But it's not something a person who is joyful and childish would say out loud. And I think the dialogue is very, I'm going to tell you this. And I think it's the same thing that happened with the like other adaptations, like let's say the Percy Jackson show. It's very tell, not show, right?
Yeah,
Especially when it comes to dialogue.
At points, I think it does show, but I'll talk about that in a second.
At points, it does show a lot, but I think it does run that live action adaptation of like, we know what you guys are expecting, so we're trying to check off a list. And I think, you know, it was very rushed, and that is why a lot of the dialogue was kind of shoehorned in of like, this is what we're trying to do, so technically we checked it off.
The length of the show of this season, because each episode, it's only 8 episodes,
That nigga
each
blanket
episode's
so hard.
48 minutes, is basically the same length or just a little bit longer than the show itself. So when you talk about condensing and combining different things like the Northern Air Temple and Omashu and things like that, Bevan, where do you think that they went wrong in that adaptation? Like, do you think they did a good job of combining certain stories and certain character beats from other seasons, like Uncle Iroh, for instance?
Yeah, I think where the show is at its strongest is when it's expanding the narrative and not condensing the narrative. An example of that is the add-on scenes with Zuko and Iroh at the Fire Nation, you know, especially the funeral scene or the one that was really touching to me. I know the funeral scene got everyone in the feels, but the one that was very touching is the scene that they shot when Zuko's about to leave and Iroh comes on the ship. And he's stating that the only thing that he needs is on this boat, and he's going to go with him, and that's very touching. So when you go down that route of let's expand upon what we know was in the animated series and talked about, and actually show it, as opposed to condensing things down like the Omashu episode where you have Jet's timeline and the mechanics timeline. And Boomy's timeline, where they all don't get to breathe as much as Zuko and Iroh's storyline does, which I think for Zuko and Iroh, those are the two characters that were given the most to do and had the most character development over the Golden Trio, who didn't have really any character development.
Shri, I wonder how much of that is because of, well, first of all, I want to know if you agree with what Bevan said, and I wonder how much of what she said is because maybe the filmmakers or the creators of the show said, well, people already know the Golden Trio, and we didn't get much of these other characters toward the end, like, introducing Azula earlier and things like that. Do you think that they purposefully shifted to the Fire Nation earlier and at the expense of characters they assumed we already knew?
It all goes back to who is this for? Because if, people already know the Golden Trio, then why are we changing a narrative? And if people don't know the Golden Trio, why are we taking away characteristics of them and kind of leaving them to be a giant blob? Like, one thing I really felt bad about is that, I understand,
I ain't gonna lie, bro. One thing's like, animation probably could never be top ever. You can put more time into it. You can have longer episodes. You can have more episodes, more character development, more of a budget. Like, bro, animation is just like, it'll probably never be beaten, bro. You can do more, like, the effects itself will look better because it's animated. You know what I'm saying? Real life, the CGI could look weird or could look bad at sometimes. It's like, animated, bro, it's animated. You know what I'm saying? It's always gonna look good. Well, for the most part, like, if you do it right. But, like, most shows that are out it's doing it right. So, it's like, bro, animation will probably never be beaten. Honestly, that's probably why, like, if you want to see something really good, bro, probably watch an animated version of it, if it has one. And then, like, if it doesn't, you feel what I'm saying? They just probably make an animated version. I ain't gonna lie, bro, but it's like the only thing that's the only, like, franchise I can say that does better live action is Star Wars. Like, Star Wars started off live action. So, like, Star Wars live action is better than the animated one, except the last 3 movies. Movies 1 through 6 is probably the best ones, and then Star Wars: The Clone Wars is better than 7 through 9 for sure. But the animated Star Wars show is good as well, so it's like, but most times the animated versions are better, bro. I'm not gonna lie. It's just so hard to beat the animated stuff.
Let's say we for argument's sake, you know, it was okay to take away Sokka's misogynistic character arc, or not that he became misogynistic, but like, you know, he learned, you know, how to be more inclusive and open-minded. But that was also a big point for Katara, right? A lot of what Katara's character was being the mother hen of the group and being very, you know, I have to prove myself because I wasn't allowed to expand on this when I wasn't allowed to expand on my waterbending and my own power in my hometown, right? And when you take that away, you kind of leave Katara to do nothing, or you kind of leave her to be a very, okay, this is who the plot happens to. And she is kind of a very reactive person instead of I have a character standpoint and I have a personality to do. And I think it's nothing to do with the actors. I think the actors are really good with what they're given.
Yeah.
But I do think once you take away specific plot lines, what do you have left for one of your main characters, you know?
The waterbending scroll episode was really important to showcase that Katara has character flaws because she was insecure about the fact that Aang could pick up waterbending really quickly, which is odd that Aang doesn't do any waterbending in this series.
Not at all.
I agree.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not
He does
even
none.
a little bit. Not even
I think
at
the
all.
next season will begin with him being like, well, I'm good at waterbending now.
Yeah,
So
you're
we can
good at
kinda skip the
waterbending
training
now.
montage. Yeah, I had thought about that. Yeah.
But it's so sad because when you don't show that Katara also has some flaws in her own character because she's feeling insecure about the fact that she's not as good at picking up things as Aang, and then she like yells at him and then she ends up stealing the water scroll in the animated series. You know, there's a teachable lesson there of even she can be at fault, and she can, you know, and her brother can teach her something as well. And that also is an episode where they get to showcase how Sokka is insecure about the fact that he's the only bender and all he seems to be good for is cleaning Appa's paws. And it was kind of sad to lose those little moments in the live action of them not engaging with each other and showing each other their sides that can be flawed.
Yeah,
But
Sokka in the show, in the original show, fulfills more of a kind of a wise fool role. You know, he's the comic relief, and here he's maybe older, more mature, more of like the older brother character. Randolph, as far as like servicing these characters, right, where they are, I know in particular, you know, you could talk about Sokka, but I'm also curious where you think about Aang in this, right? Because Aang, I really feel like I thought he was done the worst disservice as far as showing who he is. We're being told who he is, but not shown who he is. How do you think the show fell short in that respect?
I totally agree. Yeah, they're Aang in the original. You know, I hate to keep comparing it to the original, but he was such a goof. Yeah, it's such a goofball. He's such a goofball in the original that you're kind of like rooting for him for a bit because you see him in the original. He wants to go sightseeing right after he gets out of the iceberg, and he wants to go on vacation. But in the live action, he's kind of just like thrown into this war, and he doesn't have any time to explore his character aside from that one monologue with Appa. And that's where I think, you know, they did him a real big disservice, because what was so compelling about this show is that the heart of the show are these characters, right? And so when we don't have the characters to relate to be invested in, it really hinders the plot of the show, because you have this large narrative of a war, right? Genocide, big themes about bigotry and sexism and stuff. But at its core, it's these kids who just want to be kids at the end of the day, especially Aang, because he's 12, right? And so when you basically get rid of the that part of it where they're not really kids, and they're kind of just like war, like they're, how do I say this? They're just part of the part of the war all of a sudden, and
yeah, they're like already casualties of war. Yeah,
they're already casualties of war, and you have this really serious tone of war. It gets really. I wrote it in my notes. The show's a bummer, like for the most part.
It really is, and
yeah.
One thing that I liked about this, and I know this is controversial, I liked that setup episode where we see the fire temple and everything being destroyed. I thought all of that worked great. But I thought what the show needed was what you're talking about, which is that counterbalance, the light. You know, Aang is more of a goofball in the first 30 seconds of every Avatar episode when they, show him airbending into the statue and falling. Like I think we needed that. We needed them to just be children for a while. Mm-hmm. So, what did you guys think of that first episode? I know it's pretty controversial among fans to start off with a bunch of airbenders getting Anakin.
The first episode, I had mixed feelings about it. I really liked the opening sequence where, again, if you're going to advertise that you're going to be Game of Thrones and you're opening it up with some really great earthbending, really great firebending, and then you see the Fire Lord burn the earthbender from the inside out and just cook him like fried chicken. Cool. But then you get to all these scenes that are just expository to like a very immature level, and a lot, like especially, when Gran started saying the animated intro when we just got the animated.
I like that though. I thought that was a nice little touch because they wouldn't do the intro at every episode because the intro is meant for anyone to pick it up. But if you're watching on Netflix, you're automatically going to be watching the next episode, right? Like no one's going to need that every time, and I didn't need it replicated for live action personally.
Yeah, it was, but we just got the intro like 5 minutes ago, and then she's redoing the anime, and it's a different intro. They expanded the intro. And then you have Gran saying the animated intro, and it just felt like it came out of nowhere. And the way she delivered it, I almost was like, guys, we need to do another take of that. If we're really going to do this, let's do another take of that.
Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
But for the most part, I would say that for the first episode, I don't mind them showing the genocide of the air nomads. I kind of would have just preferred it, though, if we saw it when he went to the air temple and he was going through the trauma of seeing Gyatso's burnt, skeleton. I think that would have been much more impactful for the audience and emotional for Aang if, it was kind of flashes of in between of, he's walking through... I'm trying to find a comparable, but he's walking just through the Southern Air Temple, and there's just flashes of this genocide happening. I think that would have worked better for me.
Shri, how do you think the show handled the interpretations of past avatars?
When Aang is talking to Kyoshi, she's nothing like what and when I compare this to the original show, there's a point because the avatars are supposed to be this spirit.
Step into Wix Studio,
the
web platform for agencies and enterprises.
Spirit of wise understanding. You have lived through many lives. You see, it's supposed to be like the adaptation of the Dalai Lama, right, in Tibetan culture, and the spirit of reincarnation. You see many lives. You see all the lives before you is in one person. So when Kyoshi starts screaming at Aang, this is your fault, this is everything, why is it so aggressive and intense? And when people say, oh, Kyoshi is aggressive and intense, she's the one who's murder is right, and there's a point to that, but she is blunt and objective, and she says, I did kill, in season 2, she's like, I did kill Chin the Conqueror, I thought it was necessary, and it was the best way to save my people. Okay, but when you're taking this to a further point of just screaming at a child, it kind of takes away the gravitas and the understanding that no, she knows what she's talking about, instead of just having this woman yelling at a kid.
I don't know. I liked how they used the avatars to show conflicting points of view and personalities. Instead of Aang just getting instructions, he gets all these conflicting ideas and has to decide for himself because these were such forceful personalities. I think that's a case of us seeing the original show and knowing what we lost from it instead of judging this show on its own merits. Shri, are there any other problems with the adaptation of the material that you want to talk about?
With the amount of stuff they've been changing in season 1, you really don't think that they are confident that they're going to make a season 2 or season 3, because not only are you changing some of the lore or characteristics of really
they got to make another season, at least one more, because they left off a cliffhanger. Spoiler if I didn't watch it. They end off the Comet coming back. It's been like the Comet is gonna come back so they can take over the world now. The Firebender is gonna be stronger for another night. Like they killed the Airbenders 100 years before that time period. So they're definitely gonna have to make it to season 2. And they also they filmed this show in 2020. It's 2024. So they have to be filming now or film another season by now. Feel what I'm saying? So they're definitely gonna make another season, or at least drop another season, because they've already made it. You feel what I'm saying? So yeah.
Important characters. In the first season, you need to. It's okay if they do that, but they need to be able to adequately and efficiently keep up that new lore in season 2 and season 3, especially the changes they made to Roku, to Boomy, people that are actually very important. Literally, the Great War is because of beef with Sozin and Roku. So if you change how Roku is, if you change how Boomy is, I'm kind of terrified for the finale that they're planning to do.
Well, speaking of Game of Thrones, that was the problem that Game of Thrones had, was changing too many things early on that were originally intended to be something else, later in the series.
I don't know if the show is going to be approved for season 2. It probably will, just because of how much attention it's getting on the platform for Netflix. But for season 2, I hope they bring back the original writers that worked on the show before they left, because I don't know if you saw it, but there was the reason they left was because of creative differences with the showrunner, and I feel like you can kind of see that in this show.
A lot of action's always doing that.
Like the original writer, like the writers of the original show left this show?
The original creators, yes. And they even have a writing credit for Masks, episode 6, which was actually my favorite.
Which was the best episode.
Bro, I didn't mean to say live action. Bro, like, every time someone collaborates with another company or something like that, they always do that, bro. Like show business and like Hollywood and whoever oversees a lot of these shows and movies be selling, bro. Like, how you gonna argue with the creators of the show? Nigga, they made the show. They're the reason you're able to even make a live adaptation of this. Without them creating it in the first place, Avatar wouldn't even be a thing. How you gonna have creative differences with the person who made it? And that's why a lot of these shows be selling when it comes to different adaptations of it. Like, just with Disney and Star Wars. When George Lucas sold his company to Disney, they had all these different adaptations of Star Wars. That's why Star Wars is on a downfall. And it's been on a downfall since episode 7. Like, what was that, like 2014-ish? Like, bro, they've been selling since, bro, because they trying to, like, bro, how are you not gonna go with what the creator tells you to do or has written already? Like, how you gonna try to beat the creator, nigga? It's his show. Like, it doesn't even make sense, bro. It's so dumb. I don't know why people do that, bro.
Yeah, so I hope they bring back.
And it's probably like, oh, we've been here in Hollywood making shows, blah, 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 blah. Nigga, y'all see the feedback y'all get every time y'all try to change that. Every time you make a different adaptation of the show, movie, whatever, y'all see the feedback y'all get is always negative. But if you just listen to the creators, the original people that made the show or movie, whatever it is, it would probably get better feedback. It might not do as good as the original, but what does really does as good as the original? But it would definitely be better than what y'all doing, and the feedback would be better. Like, shit's stupid.
The creators for season 2. Because there is a lot of promise in this show. The fight choreography was amazing. CGI was
good.
Probably the best bending CGI we've seen in live action. Like, not a high standard, but
yo, that movie was terrible. I told y'all at the beginning of this video. They did all that. It was like, hold on, bro. It was like 6 benders, and they did one little rock, one pebble. Like, bro, what? At the beginning of the first episode of this new live action Avatar show, one bender created so much rocks and rock walls and all that stuff, bro. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know if you guys knew this, but they brought on Shang-Chi martial arts consultant Alan Tang, I think his name was, for this show to kind of work the actors and the stunts to get them that's why it was so good, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the show has a lot of promise. I think it can learn a lot from this season.
Finally, Bevan, I want to return to the question of who is this for? I mean, why make the show like this?
Yeah, I mean, to go back to my original point, is like there's this narrative in Western culture that if it's animation, it's somehow a lesser form of art for consumption, especially for adults. And I really want us to get past that because, okay, say the showrunner does actually believe that, you know, we've...
That's what I'm saying, bro. People think just because it's animated or it's anime or it's a cartoon... Really, it don't even be cartoon. It's just animated. It's not as good, or it's for kids, or it's trash. And really, the animated version be the best version. Like, come on, bro.
We've got to make this more mature because we need adults to watch this too. Then I would encourage them to just go further into that. If you're really gonna, because right now the animation and the scripts of the animation is more mature and more nuanced, and they are fearless in showcasing all of their characters having really high moments, really low moments, learning from those low moments, and it's a teachable lesson for everyone involved in dealing with a lot of different themes like genocide and colonialism and racism and bigotry and all that stuff. So while I can separate that the animated show, I would really just encourage them to, if you're gonna get a season 2, then, and if you're going to believe this stupid narrative that, you know, live action is more mature, then actually make it more mature. Actually do better nuanced writing. Don't spoon feed us dialogue. There was so much expository dialogue. There was no mystery. There was no wondering what a character's intentions were because they just flat out told you. And that's honestly my biggest critique of the live action show, because I do agree with Randolph that there is a lot of promise. There's a really good cast. There's great cast, great bending, great fight scenes, and it's almost like they only wanted to mature the fight scenes, but not the character dynamics themselves. And that would be my note for them.
Well, guys, that's all the time we have. Thanks very much to our guests. You can find everybody's social links below, but we want to hear from you guys. I mean, did you like this adaptation? Do you think there were things they left out they should have kept in, things that shouldn't have been combined? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Nice video. Okay. I have a 60-plus-year-old uncle that does not watch cartoons. He watches series now. We talk about Avatar. It's not a great show, but it's still a 10 out of 10 for conversations I have with my uncle. Yeah, like the live adaptations are always gonna be older audience because, like she just said, people be thinking animated is for a younger audience. It's kids and it's trash and it's a dumb narrative, but whatever. Like, it's such a stereotype. Although Zuko and Lu-Ten actually seem to have a relationship in this show, I think it was missed opportunity to heighten Zuko's grief losing his cousin, grandfather, and mother in the span of a week. Yeah. Anyone who has the audacity to say that this is worse than the 2010 version loses every ounce of validity. I've heard that too many times online. He thinks this is better. He didn't watch the anime show. Oh, he's talking about the movie. Oh, yeah. The movie was worse. That's the worst one ever. Kyoshi was bang on perfect. She was enormous, imposing, powerful, and inflicted terror in the firebenders at first glance. Just watching the first episode this morning, wasn't overly disappointed and actually thought it was pretty well done. Yeah, I think the first episode was the best episode, man. I think the first episode was the best episode. Like I said, the show is not bad. In my opinion, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10 in total, in general. Altogether, but it's definitely missing stuff and it could have been better. And like, bro, Hollywood, whoever is at the top, whoever oversees this stuff has to start arguing with the original people, the original creators, because one, you wouldn't be able to make the show or a different adaptation of it if they didn't make the show in the first place. And two, they know what to do. Like, they already written the show, they already did this stuff years ago when they first made it. So it's like, bro, let them do it. Like, not saying you can't put your input and like be like, okay, I feel you should do that, or maybe try this, do that. But if they don't like it, or if they be like, nah, I don't think it's good, the nigga like, bro, it's their show. Like, bro, that's so annoying. But drop a like, subscribe. I see you on the next video.